What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. In this episode of the How Good Is Your Overwatch League team series, we'll be taking a look at the Toronto Defiant. In this video, we'll be analyzing the talent that Defiant have to offer. Doing so will help me predict where I think the team will finish in the overall standings in Overwatch League Season 2. I'm going to start off by talking a little bit about their head coach, and then we'll proceed on to their players. The head coach for the Toronto Defiant is Bishop. Bishop already has Overwatch League experience since he was the coach of the London Spitfire during their Stage 1 playoff victory against the NYXL. So needless to say, Bishop knows what it takes to be successful in this league. Obviously, he was working with some of the best players in the entire league, but I still think he deserves some of the credit, and that's pretty much everything I have to say about Bishop, so now let's move on to the players on the Defiant. At main tank for the Toronto Defiant is Yakpung. He played in the last two seasons of Overwatch Contenders Korea for O2 Ardeon. His team finished in the top 8 during Season 2, and they actually came in second during Season 1. Yakpun has shown a lot of promise during his time in Contenders. In my opinion, he looks like a player with a good amount of potential. He's a young player, so he does have a lot of room for growth, and I think because of that, he could end up developing into a star for his team in the future. Yakpung is actually the only main tank player on the roster, so now let's talk about the off-tank position. In the off-tank for the Toronto Defiant is Envy. Envy played on the LA Valiant during the first two stages of Overwatch League Season 1. Although he'd eventually be released, Envy proved that he has what it takes to be a good off-tank in the Overwatch League. Just look at his stats during the time he spent with the Valiant. He stitched together more than a few dominant performances. I expect him to do just as well, if not even better than he did last year since he's on a full Korean team now, meaning that he no longer has to worry about speaking English very well, so communication should be a lot easier for him now. Like with Yakpung, Envy is actually the only player at his position, so now let's move on to the supports of the team. On main support, we have Roki. This is a player who has already found some success in his career. While on X6 Gaming, his team won Overwatch Contenders Korea Season 1 and came in the top 8 in Season 2. Roki has shown strong performances both on Lucio and Mercy, and he'll have to keep up these performances on his new team if he wants to continue to have a successful career. Joining Roki on main support is Aid. I unfortunately don't know much about him, but what I can tell you is that he previously played on GG Esports Academy for Seasons 1 and 2 of Overwatch Contenders North America. His team managed to actually take one map off of the dominant Fusion University during the semifinals of Season 1. Based off of everything I've heard about him though, he's a good leader and a very supportive teammate. The flex support for the Toronto Defiant is the former Boston Uprising player Necco. Necco has always been a solid player in my opinion. He popped off a lot during his time with the Uprising, and I consider him to be one of the better Zenyatta players in the league. I don't know if he's top 5 or anything like that, but still very solid nonetheless. He's also proved that he can be a flexible player when he has to by playing heroes such as Ana, Roadhog, and Bastion. I'm a big fan of Necco, and I think he'll probably be one of the best players on his team. And one quick thing that's worth noting about Necco is that he's going to miss the first 3 games of this upcoming season due to a suspension that he has to serve. Now let's talk DPS, and first up is Asher. Like with Envy and Necco, Asher already has Overwatch League experience. Asher played for the LA Gladiators during Season 1, and he primarily played the hit scan role. He showed some flashes on heroes such as Tracer, Widowmaker, and McCree, but it wasn't enough to keep him in the rotation as the Gladiators eventually decided to bench him in favor of Surefour. While Asher's services won't be super useful during the tank and support heavy meta that we're currently in, he could be more of a key contributor down the road for this team if the DPS heroes that he's good at become more relevant in the meta. The next DPS player I wanted to bring up is Ivy, and like with his O2 Ardeon teammate Yakpung, Ivy is a high potential player who could develop into a star one day. Ivy is a flex DPS player with a reasonably deep hero pool. Some of the heroes he's well known for include Genji, Pharah, and Sombra. I see Ivy as an important piece of this team, and he'll probably be asked to do a lot for his team since he's the most flexible DPS player on the roster. The third and final DPS player for the Toronto Defiant is Stellar, and he played alongside Ivy on O2 Ardeon. Stellar is mostly known for his Tracer, and you can argue that he's basically just a Tracer specialist because that's what he almost always played during Contenders Korea. He oftentimes got subbed out on maps where Tracer isn't needed all that much, or on ones where it's more important to have a good Widowmaker player in the game. Ivy is going to have to work hard and gain a more versatile hero pool if he hopes to be in the lineup consistently. Just like with Asher, Ivy may not be a big contributor during the GOATS meta, but he could become a more important piece later on, and that is what the Toronto Defiant are looking like coming into Overwatch League Season 2. This is a decent looking team. Building a core around veteran players Envy, Necco, and Asher wasn't too bad of an idea if you ask me, but there are some things about this team that worry me. For one, they only have an 8-man roster, meaning that they don't have a lot of players to work with. If a few of the players on this team end up playing below expectations, then what are the Defiant going to do? They don't have much room to replace players in their starting lineup with ones who will potentially do more to help the team out. Also, the DPS position seems a little lackluster in my opinion. I like Ivy a lot, but I'm not sure if Asher or Stellar will be good enough to not be considered an obvious weakness of this team. The last problem I have with the Defiant is their lack of star power. Sure, they have some good players and a few with a lot of potential, but they're missing the hard carry stars that a lot of other teams have. Because of all of these potential problems, I see the Toronto Defiant finishing anywhere from 15th to 11th place in the Season 2 overall standings. Although there are a handful of concerns about this team, I do think they have potential. While I don't think they're title contenders or anything, there's definitely a chance that this team makes the playoffs, but the only way they qualify for the postseason will be through a wildcard spot, which they'll have to earn by coming in first or second at the play-in tournament held at the end of the season. And that's how good I think the Toronto Defiant will be in Overwatch League Season 2. And with that being said, that's all I've got for you guys today. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to hit that like button. If you're new around here, then consider subscribing and clicking the bell icon so you don't miss when my next Overwatch League discussion video goes up. Also, feel free to let me know how good you think the Toronto Defiant are down in the comments section. Thank you all so much for watching, and until next time, this is ATP, signing out. Peace.